Hi everyone, welcome to this new series about multi-cluster service mesh. I am Denis Janot, Director of Field Engineering at Solo.io, and as I said, it will be a series where we will try to address the most common challenges when trying to deploy a service mesh across multiple clusters. So some of the challenges that you need to federate trust and identity. You need to allow communications between the cluster. You need to use different service mesh technology in general. I mean, you can have like Istio locally and app mesh in AWS, for example. You need also to manage the access control in a simpler way. You need to think about like the disaster recovery strategy, and all of the above is very, very complex. So we are going to start this series with the federated trust and identity, and we'll take the example of Istio, and we'll start by looking at the different models you have when you want to use multiple clusters. One that's called the shared control plane model, where you have only one control plane and you need a flat network between your two clusters. So that's not really commonly used. The most popular approach is what we call the replicated control plane. The name can be confusing because there is no such replication. It's really you really have two independent Istio clusters, but you use some of the Istio objects to allow communication between them. And what you need as well is this federation of identity trust, and that's where we are going to focus in this presentation. And to simplify that, we have launched this project at Solo.io, which is called Service Mesh Hub. And the idea is really to allow you to simplify the way you deploy multiple meshes across multiple environments. That's why I use a different diagram here. You see there is no mention of Istio. It's really about having different meshes and using edge gateways to allow microservices from one mesh to communicate with microservices on the other mesh. And obviously in the case of Istio, we have this Istio ingress gateway that is this edge gateway. We also have an option to use our own gateway that's called Glue. But the idea really with the Service Mesh Hub is to allow you to manage multiple meshes and unify the trust and allow communication across the mesh with multiple mesh technologies. So we started with Istio, App Mesh is around the corner, and others are coming. And the idea is that this Service Mesh Hub really simplify your life. It just like make discovery of the different microservices and different meshes automatic. It allows you to simplify the way you manage access controls and the way you unify the identity and all these things. So we'll focus on the identity again in this one, but in the next talk we'll speak about the other part of what you need. So let's go and jump directly in the demo here. So I've prepared. So basically, what I'm going to do is that it's part of a workshop that we are going to deliver soon. The first workshops will be in September in both US and Europe time zone, so you'll be able to register in the one that makes more sense for you. But what I did here is that I used this environment where you have like 3 Kubernetes clusters, one where we will just deploy Service Mesh Hub. You can consider that as an admin cluster, and the two other clusters will be the two clusters where I have Istio deployed and where I want to federate the identity. Obviously, the Service Mesh Hub could run on one of them, but we did that way so that you understand that it's not really a prerequisite. So what I did already, I deployed like Kubernetes clusters, I deployed the service mesh hub on one cluster, and I used this meshctl command just to register my two other clusters so that service mesh hub knows about them. And then I deployed Istio in a standard way on both sides using the Istio operator, so nothing special in the way I deployed it. And finally, I deployed the famous Bookinfo demo app. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to look at the current identity of these two meshes. So if I so remember, Kind2 is my first cluster and Kind3 is my second cluster. So here I'm going to send a request between the from the reviews microservice on this cluster to the rating microservice on the same cluster. And I'm going to look at what I get. So here you should see that there is no such TLS happening here. So what I'm going to do first is to enable that. So I'll enable TLS by switching the mode to strict on both cluster, Kind2 and Kind3. So just going to do that quickly, and if I call the same command here, then it will be more interesting because I'll be able to see that the certificates here, the certificate chain with this cluster.local organization, which is the default one. You see you have one that's finished by DAY here, for example. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to run the same command, but I'm going to do it on the other cluster, Kind3. And you should see the same organization name, but as you can see, the certificates are different. So that's why now we need to unify that so that they can trust each other, and we can have like secure MTLS between the two clusters. So what we do in our case that we have this CRD that's called virtual mesh, where we just simply say that we want to create a virtual mesh based on the two mesh we have today, like Kind2 and Kind3, and we want also like this auto restart pods. Makes your life easier because basically when you have this new identity, you need to restart multiple Istio components so that they will start to use the new certificates. So I just enabled that. So I'm going to create this object here on the service mesh hub, and what you can see what happens, you know, there is like a certificate that will be spreaded across the two clusters, so you'll be able to get it on the two clusters, and at that time you know that most of the things have already happened, but we'll also be able to take a look at the service that will restart and things like that. So let me check that here. So for the moment nothing is restarting because the certificates are not delivered yet. You see it's there on Kind2, should probably be there on Kind3 as well. Yes, and now if I look at the services on Kind2, you start to see that the different pods are restarted so that the sidecar proxy on all of these different pods now we'll use the new certificates. So let's wait a little bit more. That should be quite fast. You see also that Istio Ingress Gateway restarting as well because it also needs to have these new certificates. But we can already try between like the communication between the review and the rating because they already restarted. Now if I try to look at the Kind2 here, I see there's like this service mesh hub organization, and I see it finished by BQAW, and if I do the same with the site, Yeah, I see the same here. So you see that now we have like an unified identity. So let me go back quickly on my slides here. So as I said, we just covered that part, and we will cover many other topics in the next videos. And also just wanted to highlight a little bit of our portfolio at solo.io. So we've discussed here about the service mesh hub that allows you to simplify like multi-cluster service meshes, but we also have Glue, which is our API gateway that you can use, especially if you don't have like service mesh. We have this WebAssembly Hub project that we are working on to be able to use to create easily WebAssembly filters for Envoy when this will become stable in Envoy, and you'll be able to apply these filters on Glue because it's Envoy based, but also on Istio itself. And we also have this developer portal that you can use in both cases, both for Glue or for Istio, that allows you to simplify the way your user can interact with your APIs. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and the next one is coming soon, where we will cover the way Service Mesh Hub helps you to simplify the communication between the two clusters. Thank you.